Today we're going to design all of the Holy Trinity cars in the LEGO Speed Champions scale. The Porsche 918, the McLaren P1 and the LaFerrari. We're also going to take a sneak peek of a LEGO G80 M3. We'll make a sick montage of all of the Holy Trinity cars together. And who is gonna call? Before we start today's compilation video, because that's just what this is. And because of that, you might be wondering why it's taking so long to get this video out, as it's mostly content from the other videos. So just want to give a quick live business behind the build update or whatever, so you know what's been going on recently. Or actually, let's start with the instructions for all of the Holy Trinity cars have now been added to the Ultimate LEGO Car Instructions bundle, which currently is at the discount, which is available in the description in case you want to grab it. First and foremost, I've been really busy with the years-long product development you probably already know about by now. It's almost done, but it's been kinda financially stressful this last bit. Up until this point, I've invested basically everything I earn from this into that product development, and that's thanks to you. But it's been insanely difficult to keep up with that this year actually. So I've decided and worked to hopefully be able to take in an investment for this last bit of the development and production, because selling digital LEGO instructions and custom-made hand-picked LEGO kits is great, but it's difficult to earn any significant amount from it, and have also been building a lot of LEGO recently and designing new models, which you probably are aware of if you watch the short form content. Quite a few commissions actually, but the next video after this will be a completely new model. I thought about doing another Koenigsegg, as that has been really requested, and I think it's really time for it now. Or a Bugatti Bolide, yeah, you know that car, the insane looking one. But felt like it's been quite a lot of hypercars recently with the Holy Trinity, so I think I'm gonna do either the G80 BMW M3, which I have already started to design, so don't think I'm gonna do a full behind the build video for it. So the more likely one will be the Mercedes SLS AMG Black Series, but we'll design both of them. But enough talking, let's get into today's video. I actually started designing a 918 quite a while ago, but as with so many projects, it got scrapped or whatever. I don't know. Only designed the front, which I actually now kinda like. It looked better than I remembered it. But I think I'm gonna try something else to begin with anyway, and we will see where we end up. Let's begin designing something. As some of you may know, I have already designed the P1 once, but that one is in desperate need of a complete redesign. Would really like to design the P1 in this bright light orange color if we don't have to do too many aesthetical sacrifices. But don't have too many pieces in this color at the moment, so we'll begin with designing it in yellow. And just keep in mind that we want to do it in this color at the end. No matter what, we will begin with designing it in yellow right now. I have no idea where to start with this model, but I think beginning with figuring out how to create the headlights is a good first step. As usual, started placing some bricks together like this without attaching them, just to get some sort of idea for the front, but I don't know. Now modify this slightly and actually think this kind of looked pretty good. I'm a bit worried about these tooth claw pieces or whatever, and how, like, what do you say, accessible or common they are. But I'm actually kinda considering this design after all, maybe with some slight modifications as well. So built up kinda what I had designed digitally, made some more slight modifications. For example, I improved the headlights, but other than that I kept it relatively the same. I think the headlight turned out really great. Need to order some parts in the right color though. I'm not fully convinced about the transparent pieces. Yes, they are the most accurate to the real car, but might look better with dark bluish gray ones like, like this. But I don't know, now that I see this, I kind of think it looks better with the transparent ones, so maybe going with the transparent ones is the best alternative, but we'll see when we add the other pieces and all of that.
P1.
Then, as almost always, I started creating the front of the model, and to be honest, I was kinda nervous about this, because the P1 has such a unique and complex front end with a lot of curvatures that's not the easiest to recreate in a LEGO format. Was also not really super happy with the front of the previous P1 I designed, so it felt especially important to get this right this time. Also, please don't mind the mudguards. Didn't have these specific mudguards in yellow that I later want to have in bright light orange, of course, so these black ones had to do for now at least. The trickiest part of the front was probably the headlights, but came up with this not super unique solution, but that looks pretty clean. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty happy with this, but just so badly want to order the correct parts now, but think I'm gonna do a bit more progress first, so we don't have to do like a million Bricklink orders. So moved on to the rear of the model, which I also knew was going to be really tricky to recreate. Also had such a hard time deciding how much detail, functionality and so on I was going to be able to include. I know a lot of you really wanted to have a functionally retractable spoiler and did absolutely consider that, but I unfortunately quite quickly came to the conclusion that it would have sacrificed too much of the aesthetics as well as making it less durable, which I wasn't prepared to do this time. So yeah, you'll see what happened.
LaFerrari.
So immediately got to work with trying to figure out the headlights, or rather the whole front of the model. And relatively quickly I realized that this was not going to be an easy front to design. However, there already were quite a lot of great LaFerrari mocks out there, for example from NV Car Mocks and Sleepy Mock, and definitely took some inspiration from their versions. So this is what I've come up with now, like a first draft. Not super happy with this though, so gonna try to improve it or try something completely different, but we'll see. Maybe this looks a little bit better, but think I'm gonna try something completely different first before I decide for what to go for, basically. I've tried so many different things with the front now, but it's not coming together. I think I prefer this kind of solution best, but now it's like a nightmare to try to attach the lights or come up with another solution for the headlights or something. Guess the sides will turn out great. Sorry for being so negative right now, but yeah, nothing is impossible. Impossible just takes a little bit longer, but we will get there, I promise you. So kept on trying to figure out the perfect front design, and in the end I kinda blended together all the different designs I came up with, which meant the front became a mix of a lot of weird, strange, or I don't know about weird and strange, but a mix of all kinds of building techniques. And yeah, whatever works to achieve a good finished product I'm fine with, but now it just feels like I'm rambling on about stuff. Then I started working on the sides of the car, which I thought would be significantly simpler to design than the front. But the sides of the LaFerrari are quite thick though, so it actually was a bit easier said than done to get that look while still being able to fit 2 minifigs inside. And I know many of you also requested openable doors, but this time I just wasn't ready to sacrifice the aesthetics for that.
918.
This is the first initial idea I have for the rear lights. Might be too complex, probably need something thinner, but we'll try this. So then I started creating the rear of the car, and I already knew from the beginning that this was gonna be really tricky, because the 918 rear is so curved and have so many details. Alright, I think I've already come up with a better solution for the rear lights. Why not use one of these pieces in transparent red and then cover up the lower part like this, because then it kind of creates the shape of the 918 rear lights. At least I think this is the best possible alternative so far, so we'll just keep on building and drink some coffee. So with some coffee and studs running in my veins, I was ready to try and implement my rear light design into the 918 rear. Okay, I lied about the studs running in my veins thing, but maybe that would have helped, because this rear was by all means not an easy thing to design. But after a lot of trial and error, I came up with a good start at least. Okay, maybe this looks a little bit weird now, but think it's gonna look really good when we add some side panels and the spoiler and stuff. So the most important thing are these rear lights, which I think this was a really good alternative for. Then it was back to building, specifically the spoiler attachments, which turned out to be even trickier to figure out. Or maybe I was just stupid, because as usual the solution ended up being pretty simple in the end. So finally found a way to attach the spoiler. Just need to order these pieces used for the spoiler supports in black. So now I've also added these like roof line or rear section parts or B-pillars, or I don't know what you call these, but these wedge plates, these wedge bricks here, and also this kind of thing with the slopes.
P1.
Okay, so relatively happy with the shape of the rear. I really need to order more parts now though. I don't know if I should go over to bright light orange immediately now, but I so badly want to, and I kinda maybe might want to try and incorporate the light bar as well, or light bars I should say. I'm very skeptical that that will work well though, and of course we'll also try to incorporate the spoiler to it. Other than that, I will continue building or order parts, or continue building or order parts, or continue building or... Hadn't really planned to do openable doors for this, but it was so requested, so came up with something that looks relatively good. I'm not fully convinced about this myself yet. What I don't like are these tiny gaps, and also it's just not as accurate as I would have liked it to be. But I don't know, maybe it's worth it to have openable doors. Kinda starting to like this as well. As usual when I'm doubting, I'm throwing out a question on Instagram, but the openable doors seem to win here as well. So I guess this is what we are going with. After I figured out the openable butterfly doors, I moved on to the roofline, which just like with every single part of this car also is very curved, plus some tricky details with vents and stuff that I wanted to get as accurate as possible, and the solution, as very often is the case, ended up being much simpler than I imagined. The roof itself was pretty straightforward to create. The only interesting part here is that we are jumping some studs with an inverted round plate, as you probably can see, and to get that curvature I used some hose pieces, which also was kinda tricky, as they only exist in one particular length in the bright light orange color, which I of course wanted to use later, so had to extend them with some lightsaber handles. Alright, so now I started creating the rear as well. It's very similar to the one I did in a help out video a couple of months. I can't say that, but made a few changes. Of course, it's not done yet though. Then we have this like roof line. It's not roof line, but rear section or whatever. Don't think I will be using this, but will probably use something like this for the rest of the leading again roof. I don't know, but other than that I will continue building a little bit more, and then we will have to order and wait for some parts. So the rear of the car then, and this was definitely the easiest thing to recreate, just because I basically just slightly modified the LaFerrari rear I already created, mainly by lowering it by a plate. Also finished up the engine cover part and the things around it. The LaFerrari has so many complex shapes and angles, so it feels quite far away from classic Lego. But despite all of that and all the complex building techniques of this model, I think the shaping became pretty clean looking.
918.
Received some more bricklink orders, so also finished up the front, and I think it turned out relatively good, especially when you take in like everything. I think this is gonna be a very sleek, clean looking model. So yeah, good progress. After that, I started working on the sides of the model, which were significantly simpler to design than the front and rear. I did try a few different alternatives, but I ended up going with the one I filmed here. I did have a really hard time deciding on the wheelbase though. I initially made it 8 studs long between the mudguards, which is actually more accurate when compared to the blueprints. But as is so often the case with Lego models, an 8 stud wheelbase just didn't feel right. So even though it's not perfectly true to the blueprints, I decided, like with almost all my models, to go with 7 studs instead. I just think it looks better in a Lego format, and this model was no different. Maybe it's because the Lego wheels tend to look a little bit tiny or small or whatever. Just can't decide if I should go for a brick-built windscreen with bar pieces like this, or the same 3D printed one I made specifically for the Elise, which actually turned out to work pretty well for this as well. Maybe just making it a bit wider here. But I ended up going with a brick-built windscreen, as the vast majority of you on Instagram also thought that was the better option. So I incorporated that while also designing an interior and a removable roof. And as always now, let's make some custom rims. And already asked you on Instagram which ones you wanted me to create, so these ones. Changed the windscreen when I added the roof and also changed the color of both, which I think looked better. Of course, with the windscreen now it's gonna look very weird when you remove the roof. But I guess you can add this back to the windscreen if you really want to have it. Wait a second. Of course this works as well, but I just don't think it looks as good as... Wait another second. As when you just have these bar pillars. But of course, as always, it's Lego, so I really encourage you to modify it to your liking. Do that. Now we have a roof line as well that looks really good. So I think it's time to do the bricklink orders finally. Received the bricklink orders, but unfortunately I am an idiot and totally forgot about that there is a different type of mud guards for the front fenders. So have to do another bricklink order just for those. Great! The wing or spoiler looks really good though. And now, finally, the correct mud guards. So let's finish this model. So it was time to finalize the car in the bright light orange color, which probably is my personal favorite Lego color. Not a huge fan of the P1, but had to admit that this model of it slowly but steadily started to become one of my best designs so far. A big statement, I know, but it's just such a clean build and it didn't look less clean in this color. So even though I had to do some design sacrifices because of the parts availability in the color bright light orange, I'm so happy I did go for it. Okay, this turned out really great, but not gonna lie, it was unfortunately also really difficult to put together, especially getting the tubing right here and the headlights, to be honest, because I can't say they are perfectly legal building techniques, and the tubes are kinda 1 millimeter too short or something, which doesn't help. But these are the only ones that exist in bright light orange, so of course this is what I had to work with, and it works. And other than that, the spoiler looks great, and of course the doors. Really glad I included them.
LaFerrari.
So finally received all the necessary bricklink orders. So let's finish it now. The model was already pretty much done though, but incorporated all of the correct parts as well as finishing up the right side of it. Would have preferred to use a non-printed windscreen instead of the Lotus one, but couldn't get my hands on one in Sweden and didn't want to wait any longer to get this model out to you. Even though I think these wheels I designed for a recent commission fit the LaFerrari pretty well, they look relatively good on this. I of course made some custom ones specifically for the LaFerrari. Trying to find some inspiration for the cinematic montage, asking ChatGPT. I am going to montage speed and scale for the Trinity. Yup, here's how to make that montage feel cinematic and not just like a nice b-roll of Lego cars. Wide shots, all 3 cars together in formation. Quarter angles, top downs, depth and foreground, macro focus, blah 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 blah. But I think I'm gonna get some more inspiration on YouTube. Right, so checked out some content now, and I think I want to create more of a story this time. So started a little bit with a shot list or something, building up some kind of garage or something, and I'm gonna have some flickering lights over here. So now I got the idea done and started filming over here with everything. I think the montage is going to turn out pretty great. At least I hope you will like it. So now finally this insanely long project is coming to an end. Again, I'm so sorry it's taken so long to just get the videos out, but it's been a really fun project. I don't know which one of these that's your favorite, please let me know. Personally, of course, I'm a huge Porsche fan, so in real life I like the 918 the most. But here in LEGO, I think the 918 is the one that might have a bit more to you could wish for, or however, whatever you say. I think the rear looks insanely good, probably my favorite one of these, but the front, it just looks a little bit too flat, or I don't know. It's just not as accurate as I would have liked it to be. So if I have to choose one, it would probably be the LaFerrari. At least I think it is the prettiest one, and it's the most durable as well. However, the P1 is probably the most insane one out of these. First and foremost because of the bright light orange color, and then we have the openable butterfly doors, and I'm so glad I was able to incorporate them. All of these have been added to the Ultimate LEGO Car Instructions bundle, which currently is at a discount, link in the description as always. Other than that, the next video will be a totally new model, so thanks a lot for your patience. Like and subscribe if you like this video and haven't already subscribed, and if you like stuff like this, thank you so incredibly much for all of your support, and brick it up, turn it loose, and let your creativity burn rubber. Bye for now.